Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I am one of your hosts, Sammy Kinnison, here with Angela Belford, and today we are joined by a dear friend and PodFest fellow attendee, Omar Ferraira. Omar, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited.
I am so excited. It's good to see you both. It's been quite a few months since Podfest, and we had a great conversation, and I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, we're so glad. Before we jump into some
Mhm.
of the big projects that you're working on, can you give us like a real brief? And I say real brief because you and I have talked and known each other, and you got a lot of different things.
Yes,
Um,
In 3 days, y'all got besties because
yes, we did, we
I
did.
mean,
we did. Uh, introduce yourself for
Mhm.
our listeners, just to kind of give them a little bit of a flavor of who you are.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, but but better than just one. Um, so I was born in a Dominican Republic. When I was 10, we moved to New York City, the South Bronx, and from there we moved down to Florida. I've
oh,
always been
wait,
a
you did 2 foreign countries. The Bronx and Florida, those are 2 separate countries. Sorry, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I
No,
apologize.
it is true. It is true. It is true.
Go
Florida,
ahead.
it's a country of its own.
There you go.
Throughout my life, I was always curious about mythology, psychology, just what makes the world works and things like that. I was always I'd equate myself to Bastion. If you ever seen the Never Ending Story, just hiding
Mm.
in the library with a book and just reading. So that was always me, kind of like an oddball. A couple of years ago, for 17 years, I worked as a youth development professional. So I work with young people, with young professionals beginning their lives. So I did a lot of management training and leadership training. And currently, I'm work with a wonderful organization, which is called the Inner Truth Project. And it's an organization that focuses on survivors of sexual abuse. So we provide therapeutic services for them. But in addition to that, we promote a lot of um, violence prevention initiatives throughout our community here in East Florida, the Treasure Coast. But my personal passion is this: it's a soul's quest, is what I call it. It's uh, it's a passion project. It's a passion initiative about the accumulation of all that I've learned throughout my life, and now beginning with the mission of empowering individuals to find their essence and live from there. So that's
Mm.
a little synopsis of who I am and where I've been and what I've done.
I feel like, Omar, a lot of what you do is like parallel or tangential to the hero's journey, in that our
That's what I was
own
totally thinking.
lives, the hero's journey is technically speaking a literary or storytelling device. It's not
Mhm.
actually our own lived experience device. It's
But it
analyzing
was
how
from
we tell
mythology.
stories.
But
Well,
it was from studying mythology.
I will tell you this. Joseph Campbell has been my guide throughout my life,
I
right?
figured you
So
were a
so I could
devotee.
definitely talk about the hero's journey all day long. And the hero's journey is nothing more than our own lives projected
Right.
out through art, storytelling, and so forth and so on. So, for instance, the call to the adventure. A lot of us get that call at different stages of our lives, but we don't recognize what it is, right?
Mhm.
And although society does a good job at setting external calls to the adventures, like go find a career, go find form a family, all those things, those are structures within a society because we need to maintain it. The hero's journey, and part of what one of the catalysts for me creating the Soul's Quest, it's really what happens internally, because we understand the transitions that happen outside and physically, but we really don't understand what I call the psycho spiritual changes that happen inside of us, right?
Mm.
So I think the only person that has come close to identifying that crisis from a psychological point of view is Eric Erickson, and where he talks about the different transitions in life. And if you don't understand what you need psychologically to grow from one place to the other, what happens is a crisis. If you look at, there's no coincidence why mental health is so much at the front of our society. right? Because the transition is okay, wait a minute. What are we? What are we doing?
Mm.
What's happening, Dad? Although we produce more food than ever before, our quality of life is better than ever before. We're all struggling. Why is that? See, that's a psychological, psycho spiritual is what I call it, right? Because that is a transition that we understand. And the hero's journey depicts this perfectly. But most people, like, think that it's just a storytelling device, but it's the story of us as individuals, but us as a collective.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, so much there. I have been, and it's it's so much about, I've been talking recently about the idea of iterating. I have one of my chosen children, who I picked up along the journey, and her boyfriend met with my husband and I to ask for her hand in marriage,
Oh,
and which was very fun to be that surrogate parent for her. And I first asked for my husband, and he goes, "Oh no, that's an Angela thing." Um, and I told him, I said, "Listen, we know this lovely, and we know that she will be because she needed surrogate parents. We know that she's going to have a journey at some point, and you understand that she's going to iterate multiple times throughout your lifetime. I've been married 31 years, and I say I'm on about my third husband, the same guy technically on his
Yes.
driver's license, right?
Yes.
But we've iterated those times, and I think marriage, you have to iterate towards one another, and that's hard. But I love what you're saying about the idea that the crisis comes when we don't have what we need for that next journey. And
Yes.
I, reflecting back on when he and I iterated at different points and time,
Mhm.
and when he got to that point, he didn't know what to do for that next part, and that is where he had to go and find a guide, and he had, and so I love that. It almost it makes it more mm, easy to say it's less shameful, right?
Yes.
There's not something wrong with me. I'm not broken. I just, like, I want to level up,
Yes.
and I want to go to the next level, and I need more tools. I need to go run some side quests
Yes.
here so that I'm prepared for the next level. I love
So
that.
here's the interesting thing, right? Because you open up a can of worms because I love transitions in life, and this is what I talk about in the book, in the podcast, and whatever coaching I decide to do. This is what I do, right? Society is so driven by material gain and external things, right? Carl Jung has a book. It's called Modern Man in Search of a Soul. And the problem that he depicts in that book is this, right? We are so data driven. We are so caught up in the statistics of things, right? In the probability of things that we fail to realize the changes that happen in us, right? So, for instance, you've been married 31 years, I've been married 20 years, together 24. And what happens is that we both have grown, right? And
Mhm.
and although I love this stuff because I am a nerd, my wife doesn't really understand it. But when I explain it to her and say, "Look, this is what's happening with me, and this is what needs to happen," we begin to do a better understanding. What our society has failed to do and to instruct us on is what are those stages of change that we need to expect, right? It's easy to say for a young person, go to school, get a career, uh, find a partner, and live forever, right? But then what happens when, because this is what happens to a lot of us, we get to that, and then our souls begin to feel a sense of emptiness and confusion,
Mm,
right? And then we begin to say, what is wrong with me?
Mhm.
What's wrong with me? What's broken with me? It's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. Once you go from your physiological needs to your psychological needs, you get to a point in which you're looking for meaning and purpose, but uniquely, not based on what society has told you, but innately, what is in me that I need to share? And we all have that, and we all have that calling. So our modern challenges with mental health from and I deal with this on a regular basis is because there are people that with really critical mental health issues, like really, really, really issues that if I would tell you stories about it, it's unbelievable. But we're making it such a big pop thing that we fail to recognize that what we're really looking for is meaning in our lives, meaning and
Mm.
understanding what is my point of expression, what is that I want to contribute to my immediate community, my family, my environment, because we are called for so much more than we allowed ourselves to be. It's like we all,
Yeah.
as human beings, we were pitched into existence and we're trying to do the best that we can, trying to figure it out as we go along. And the pendulum swings and things change. But the idea is that we have to look for inside of us to be able to create something and find purpose and find meaning in what we are and what we do.
Okay, this is fascinating because we have another episode on healthy masculinity. And in it, Jeff Harry talks about he kind of, we had at that point had just done a Maslow's hierarchy section. And he actually introduced the concept of how Maslow was deeply influenced by the Blackfoot philosophy. And Blackfoot, instead of their philosophy, the native people, the self-actualization was not the basis and the top. Everything started with community. Everyone had value because they were a member of the community. And so as I hear you talk about this and our need for our society to improve and how we want to contribute to our community, it's like, yes, if we would have stayed closer, if Maslow or Blackfoot would have had better marketing than Maslow
Mhm,
did,
mhm,
right? Then perhaps maybe we wouldn't be so off track, and which is cool because then it's not like we have to go on this giant quest as a society. It's like, hey, wait. There's already there's information, and even
mhm,
looking at your mythology, there's wisdom in spaces that we don't have to go figure it out. We can
mhm.
actually just get back to our roots.
Yep, yep. But there's two things, right? And what you're depicting right now is the difference between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy, right? So you, when
Mm,
you look at Confucianism, and you look at our Western way of living, right? In Confucianism, it's that idea of community, that idea
mhm.
of the whole, that's the most important thing, right? In our tradition, the individual is the primary function. Socrates spoke about this is what he died of, right? He hated democracy because he believed in the individual so much. But the individual has to go through its journey. Like we have to go. And I tell a lot of I don't have a particular religions, but I tell a lot of Christians that I work with, it's like, listen, Christ had to spend his 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, didn't he? Right?
Yep,
Mhm.
Buddha had to do the same thing. Muhammad had to do the same thing. Moses had to do the same thing. And if you look at the social ecological model, the main foundation of change is the individual,
hmm,
right? So when you look at those type of things, and but again, Blackfoot, he had to go into his own journey. That's
yeah,
part of their culture. Their culture was about, in order for them to be a shaman, he had to go. The first, it was the psychological breakdown that he had to go through,
yep,
and he had to do that on its own in order to find out that the center of the universe, exactly where he's standing in Wyoming, somewhere in the mountain, right? So he he needed to go into that individual's journey to find that reality and then come back and teach his community that reality. That's the beauty of this.
Okay, so I want to interrupt to
Uh-huh.
throw some, I don't know, sometimes the antithesis, the arguments against,
Hmm, hmm.
or I guess really just ask some questions.
Yeah, yeah.
I have been doing some work with some friends for a little over a year that are in a harder place in life.
Hmm,
And when you look at you consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like base levels of the pyramid are not met
hmm,
regularly.
hmm,
And to think about this person and this couple and being like, no, to get to this place of fulfillment, I just need you to get past these things. And they're like, yeah, I can't figure out what I'm going to eat for the
hmm,
rest of the month
hmm,
until food stamps refreshes on the first.
hmm,
So, sure, whatever. It's one, I just feel like I want to acknowledge the place that I know all three of us are in and having
hmm,
like a base level where we had freedom to go to the library to read books because I
hmm,
wasn't also worried about putting food on my plate. But if you're in the spot where you're like, man, I don't even know how I start to step out of my day to day. Maybe it's
hmm.
not quite as dire as I don't know where food's going to be, but like the grind is so hard. How am I supposed to start thinking about my life's purpose?
Yes.
I just got to figure out how to get through today. The
Yes.
kids are loud, work sucks, all these things, whatever it might be.
Yep.
where do you go with that? Where do you go if you're like, I don't even have capacity to start
No,
thinking
no, no.
about
And
the
I
big
get that, and
questions?
that is an excellent point of view, right? Personally, I have made some horrible, horrendous financial decisions in my life, right? I will tell you that. My wife and I, and brought up three boys, and we
Mhm.
struggled financially all throughout our lives. I mean, like, that's something that I have experienced firsthand. It's like,
Right.
you go through things and then you make too much money and you can't qualify for stuff because you make too much, or you make too little,
Mm,
and then it's like nothing works out. So that pain, and it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then you have the feeling inside that it's like, I work so hard. And what are people going to think of me? I'm such a
mhm,
loser. Wh- why am I even here if I
Mm,
have to go through this? That's a real thing.
mm.
I've been
Yeah.
there, and sometimes, I mean, even now, it's like I had, after 17 years of a career, I had to make the tough decision just to walk away. I loved what I do, and I felt that I was good at it, and I had to walk away, and it cost me a lot,
Mhm,
financially, emotionally. It cost me a lot. And what I would tell those individuals is, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right?
mm,
Because the reality is like, our minds are such a powerful instrument, right? And if we can understand how it works, and if we don't understand that, you know we have to see ourselves in the better situation. We have to visualize what we want, not because we just want to manifest something, which is something that I have an issue with, just instant
mhm.
manifestation. What it does is, when you start thinking about the end inside, is that your brain and your subconscious begins to put things together as to, like, okay, this is a potential way to solve a problem, right? For me, when I had to leave my career, of 17 years, and I loved what I did, and I just had to walk away, not because I wasn't fired or anything. I just had to. My values didn't align. I What forced me to create a Source Quest was that need of, like, I need to do something because I don't know what I'm going to do financially, right?
Yeah.
And I had to do things that I didn't want to do. But what it does is that when you begin to see a vision for yourself that's a little different and better, your brain begins to put things together, right?
Mhm.
You start meeting people like
Yeah.
this. You start doing, and it's a hard thing to actualize, like you said, because it's like, I'm going through it right now. But this is why I one of the things that I write in the book is this idea of perspective, right? You gotta step back, far back. You gotta move back. You almost have to have like a cosmic perspective to realize things. At the end of it all, it's going to be okay. Number
Mm.
one. Number two, at the end of it all, people have been there and they have gotten out. So what can I model to follow that? Let me, as a man, right? Can I put my pride aside and ask for help? So
Yeah.
all these things are real, and one of the things that happens in life is that there's this law of probation. You're constantly being tested. You're constantly being seen, so that you could discover and open up everything that's inside of you, so you could find something else, you know. And it's almost looking at the situation like that as really a hero's journey,
Mhm.
right? But it's a shift in perspective. So there's a slight shift in perspective that could give you a little bit of peace, but also will help your brain come up with solutions and be creative, right? Because if you really look at life, nothing really that's dramatically changing the world came from the elite. It typically comes from struggle. Think of any revolution, the American Revolution, the French Revolution. Everything that is of worthwhile comes from struggle. So this is an opportunity for us, and then I'm speaking primarily from experience, because this is what I'm doing now in my life. And the fear, the trepidation, they're like, oh, holy crap, what am I going to do? The staying up at night crying your eyes out because you don't know. And then, like society says, suck it up, buttercup. Go out and work, right? Go figure it out.
Right.
Those moments are important, So one of the things that I talk to the men that I work with and the people that I work with is very simple. See what you want. Spend 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes in the middle of the afternoon, and 5 minutes at night. daydreaming about what you want to see, being open to that, right? And then allow the opportunity for your creativity to start coming, because then you start seeing things like, oh, well, look at that. Oh, well, look at that. It's like, we are so robbed of being children, right? 'Cause children solve problems like that, but
Yeah.
we've been robbed of that creativity even when we go to situations like this. So we have to tap into that again.
I like that. I also the person who I'm mentoring with that has been our challenge that we're trying to face right now is I'm like, what what do you want? And
Hmm.
answering that question is actually sometimes painfully hard. And I'm like, I need us to think about even in the smallest things. I
Hmm.
want a full pantry.
Yep.
I want energy to wake up in the morning.
Hmm.
I want purpose and I want these things and our shift can be I want to know what I want. Even that is our can be our first step. I don't know what I want now. I
Hmm.
want to know what I want.
Hmm.
And so I have been pushing and challenging. Let's imagine a day in the life 1 year from now. Let's think
Hmm.
about a day in the life 6 months from now. Whatever that might be. Oh my goodness. What a rich and deep conversation that we are having with Omar right now. Angela, what do you think?
Well, I am entertained that we had a whole plan. This is what we're going to talk about on the podcast. And then he gets started, and we shockingly rabbit trail down to Hero's Journey, which I'm here for every time. Love it so much. So it's a lot of fun. And the second half of this conversation, where we really dive into men's mental health and, positive masculinity, I think is a fantastic opportunity for our listeners to be able to really listen and unpack.
I absolutely agree. I think that the conversations, both parts of it, are going to be incredible and amazing. And we encourage you guys to listen to both. But we wanted to snippet it for you so that you could chunk it by topics and some different times so that you can divide up your listening time. So if you would like to follow up with Omar now before you listen to the second part of the episode, we do give him the opportunity to plug himself and share with you all about where you can find him. We'll go to asoulsquest.com. We'll put that link here in the show notes. It's a great conversation. I hope you guys tune in for the next one. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.